Military vessels in the Confederation prioritize function over form, yet your design incorporates aesthetic elements that serve no obvious purpose. We've found that crew performance and well-being improve in environments that balance functionality with comfort, Paddle explained. Efficiency isn't just about minimalism. It's about optimizing all variables, including psychological ones. They arrived at the bridge, another surprise. Instead of the isolated command centers common on Confederation vessels, the Horizon's bridge was open and collaborative, with various stations arranged in a circular pattern around a central holographic display. "Commander on deck," announced an officer as they entered. "At ease," Paddle responded. "We have a distinguished guest. First Archivist Selner of the Galactic Confederation, here to observe platform deactivation procedures." The bridge crew acknowledged Selner respectfully. They were surprisingly diverse, not just in gender and appearance, but in their demeanor and working styles. Some stood at their stations, others sat in unconventional positions, yet all seemed focused and coordinated. "Archivist Selner," Paddle said, gesturing to the central display. "This shows the status of all Sentinel platforms in Viridian space. Green indicates fully deactivated, yellow shows those in the process of shutdown, and red marks those that entered defensive lockdown due to attempted retrieval." The display showed hundreds of points scattered across Viridian territory. Most were yellow, gradually turning green as Selnar watched. 17 remained red, corresponding to the locations where Viridian vessels had attempted premature retrieval. "Lieutenant Chen, status update on the lockdown situations," Paddle requested. A young human officer responded immediately. "All 17 locations have human vessels on site. 16 Viridian ships have acknowledged protocols and are standing down. One location remains problematic. The dreadnought Imperial Might is attempting to force deactivation using energy weapons." Patel frowned. On screen, the display shifted to show a massive Viridian warship firing on a small platform, which was surrounded by a shimmering field of energy that absorbed the attacks. "The phase shield is holding," Lieutenant Chen reported, "but the dreadnought is increasing weapon power. At current progression, shield failure in 7 minutes." "And if the shield fails?" Selnar asked, concerned. "The platform will interpret it as a catastrophic attack and initiate emergency protocols," Paddle explained grimly. "A localized phase shift bubble will envelop both the platform and the dreadnought, displacing them into subspace temporarily. The bubble would collapse after approximately 48 hours, returning the ship to normal space. The crew would be unharmed, but it would be disorienting." Zellner understood the diplomatic understatement. Being unexpectedly shifted into another dimension for 2 days would be more than disorienting. It would be terrifying. "Can you prevent this?" Selnar asked. Patel nodded. "We have a vessel on site, attempting to communicate with the dreadnought commander." She turned to Lieutenant Chen. "Open a channel to the Peacekeeper." The display changed to show another human ship, this one clearly designed for combat, with sleek lines and visible weapon systems. It was positioned between the platform and the Viridian dreadnought, absorbing some of the energy blasts meant for the platform. "Captain Rodriguez, situation report," Paddle ordered. A human male with a bandaged arm appeared on screen. "Dr. Rodriguez," Selnar realized, another of the captured scientists. Like Dr. Patel, he now commanded a military vessel. "Commander, the dreadnought captain refuses communication and continues offensive actions," Rodriguez reported. "We've positioned ourselves to minimize damage to the platform, but we cannot maintain this position indefinitely without returning fire." "Understood. You are authorized to deploy countermeasures, non-lethal only," Paddle ordered. "Priority is preventing platform catastrophic response." "Acknowledged," Rodriguez replied. "Deploying now." On the display, the human vessel released several small objects that quickly surrounded the Viridian dreadnought. Simultaneously, it fired a precise beam that struck the dreadnought's main weapon array, disabling it without causing significant damage. The small objects activated, creating a network of energy fields that immobilized the massive Viridian ship. Its engines flared as it attempted to break free, but the fields held it firmly in place. Imperial might is contained, Rodriguez reported. No significant damage to their vessel, but they're not going anywhere for a while. Well done, Captain, Paddle replied. Maintain position and continue deactivation procedures for nearby platforms. As the communication ended, Selnar turned to Commander Paddle. Those were your... Too late, Morvath whispered back. We can only try to mitigate the damage now. The massive doors at the chamber's end slid open. A single human entered, flanked by 2 Confederation security officers who seemed unsure whether they were escorting or containing their charge. The human was female, average in height by their species standards, perhaps 1.7 meters, with copper-colored skin and dark hair pulled back severely from her face. She wore a simple black uniform with minimal silver insignia, nothing like the elaborate diplomatic regalia customary in the Confederation. Most striking to Selnar was her composure. She appeared completely at ease, as if arriving for a casual meeting, rather than a high-stakes negotiation that could determine the fate of an entire species. Good day, the human said, her voice measured and calm. I am Ambassador Helena Chen, representing the United Earth Government and its colonies. I understand you're holding some of our people. Ambassador Creel stepped forward, his towering insectoid form dwarfing the human. Ambassador Chen, I am Supreme Ambassador Creel of the Viridian Empire. Your research vessel was operating illegally in our sovereign territory. Your crew violated numerous regulations and resisted lawful inspection. Ambassador Chen smiled slightly. I see. And where are they now? They are being properly detained according to Galactic Confederation protocols, Creel declared. They will be released once appropriate penalties are assessed and territorial rights are properly established. The human nodded thoughtfully. Ambassador Creel, I'm relatively new to galactic diplomacy. Perhaps you could clarify something for me. Of course, Creel replied, mandibles clicking in satisfaction. When you say properly detained, does that include the condition of Dr. Maya Patel, who has been denied critical medication for her immunological condition? The chamber went deadly silent. Selnar felt their respiratory membranes constricting. Creel hesitated only momentarily. Medical requirements are provided according to Confederation protocols. If specific needs were not communicated. And what about the broken arm sustained by Dr. James Rodriguez during what you called a lawful inspection? Chen continued, her voice still pleasant, but her eyes now fixed intently on Creel. Selnar watched in fascination. This followed exactly the historical pattern. Precision intelligence about their people's condition, calm questioning, no overt threats. Yet the tension in the chamber had become almost unbearable. Regrettable incidents occur when resistance is offered, Creel responded, less confidently than before. We provided medical attention according to Confederation protocols. Yes, you mentioned that. Ambassador Chen turned to address the entire chamber. Distinguished representatives of the Galactic Confederation, humanity has always valued peaceful resolutions to conflicts. That's why I'm here today. High Elder Morvath seemed to relax slightly at these words. However, Chen continued, removing a small device from her pocket. I am authorized to present our terms clearly. She placed the device on the floor. It projected a holographic display of the local star system, focusing on the Confederation station where they were gathered. Approximately 38 minutes ago, 3 human vessels entered this system using our phase shift technology. You didn't detect them because, frankly, you can't. The hologram showed 3 ships materializing from what had appeared to be empty space. Creel scoffed. Theatrics and empty threats. Our sensors would have. Your sensors are currently receiving data managed by Lieutenant Sarah Wong of our Electronic Warfare Division. Ambassador Chen interrupted, her smile never wavering. Quite talented. She sends her regards to your security chief. By the way, says his encryption was quaint. A hologram expanded to show the station in detail, with pulsing blue indicators throughout. "We've established a presence throughout this station," Chen explained conversationally. "Non-intrusive monitoring devices only. We like to know what's happening with our people." A murmur of alarm spread through the chamber. Even Creel's mandibles had stopped their confident clicking. Additionally, Chen continued, "Our remaining vessels have taken positions near the primary Viridian fleet bases in this sector." The hologram shifted again, showing the positions of the human ships. "Now, here are humanity's terms. First, release our people, all of them, unharmed, within the next 3 hours. Second, the Viridian Empire will withdraw all claims to the Helios sector pending formal Confederation arbitration. Third, you will provide full medical care to our injured personnel according to human medical standards, which we will supply." Creel's exoskeleton rattled with indignation. "This is outrageous. The Confederation cannot allow such naked aggression." Within moments, Selner was recording a message to be transmitted via the emergency system. They carefully explained the situation, emphasizing the Viridian willingness to now comply with the agreed-upon protocols. As they finished, a new alert sounded. "Captain," called the sensor officer, "we're detecting a vessel approaching at high speed. It's human." The view screen activated to show a sleek ship approaching rapidly, far more advanced than the research vessel the Viridians had captured. It moved with a grace that seemed impossible for its size, decelerating from faster-than-light travel with no visible strain. "They were watching us," Vexmore realized. "All along." "They were protecting their technology," Selnar corrected, "as is their right during the verification process." The human vessel established communication almost immediately. The screen filled with the image of a human female with dark skin and close-cropped hair, wearing the same simple uniform style as Ambassador Chen and Admiral Santos. "Viridian vessel inexorable. This is Commander Maya Patil of the Earth ship Horizon. We've detected platform activation in your vicinity and are here to assist with safe deactivation procedures." Selnar recognized the name immediately. Dr. Maya Patel had been one of the scientists captured by the Viridians. Now she was commanding a military vessel that had appeared seemingly from nowhere. "Commander Patel," Selnar greeted, stepping into view. "First Archivist Selnar of the Confederation Verification Team. We appreciate your assistance. The Inexorable is experiencing drag instabilities due to platform defensive measures." Patel's expression remained professional, but Selnar detected a flicker of recognition. "Archivist Selnar, we're pleased to see you aboard. We'll begin emergency deactivation procedures immediately. Please stand by." Captain Vexmore moved beside Selnar. "Your ship appeared without warning. Our sensors detected nothing until you were already alongside us." "Phase shift technology, Captain," Patel replied matter-of-factly. "The same principles that power the Sentinel platforms applied to Starship propulsion. It allows us to travel through what you might call subspace." The casual revelation of such advanced technology shocked the Viridian command crew into silence. Phase shift propulsion was theoretical among most Confederation species, something discussed in scientific journals but never successfully implemented. "The platforms in your vicinity are deactivating now," Patel continued. "Your drive systems should stabilize within minutes. However, I should inform you that 17 other Viridian vessels attempted similar retrievals and are currently experiencing the same difficulties. Will you assist them as well?" Selnar asked. "We have ships en route to each location," Patel confirmed. "No Viridian crew will be endangered. This was never our intention." As promised, the Inexorable systems began to stabilize. The phase disturbances diminished and normal operations resumed. Through the viewports, Selnar could see the human vessel hovering nearby, its design unlike anything in the Confederation registry. Smooth curves instead of angular efficiency, no visible weapon systems yet radiating a sense of latent power. "Captain Vexmore," Commander Patel addressed the Viridian directly, "I understand you were following orders from your superiors. However, I must emphasize that further attempts to circumvent the verification process will trigger more severe defensive measures. My government values diplomacy, but we will protect our technology. The captain's mandibles clicked softly, a gesture of reluctant acknowledgement. Understood, Commander. We will comply with Confederation protocols. Excellent, Paddle replied. Archivist Selner, if you wish to continue the verification process, we would be honored to escort the inexorable to the next platform location. Alternatively, you're welcome aboard the Horizon to observe our deactivation procedures directly. Zellner considered the offer. The opportunity to see human technology firsthand was tempting, particularly after witnessing their capabilities. Captain Vexmore, would you object to my transferring to the human vessel to continue verification? The captain hesitated only briefly. As a neutral Confederation observer, that is your prerogative, Archivist. Perhaps a direct observation would be educational for all parties. Within the hour, Selner found themselves aboard the Horizon, escorted by Commander Patul herself through corridors that defied Selner's expectations. Unlike the utilitarian efficiency of most military vessels, the human ship incorporated artistic elements into its functional design. Subtle patterns in the flooring, gentle curves rather than harsh angles, lighting that mimicked natural spectrums. Your ship is unexpected, Zellner commented as they walked. Patel smiled. How so? Your sensors are currently receiving data managed by Lieutenant Sarah Wong of our Electronic Warfare Division. Ambassador Chen interrupted, her smile never wavering. Quite talented. She sends her regards to your security chief. By the way, says his encryption was quaint. The hologram expanded to show the station in detail, with pulsing blue indicators throughout. We've established a presence throughout this station, Chen explained conversationally. Non-intrusive monitoring devices only. We like to know what's happening with our people. A murmur of alarm spread through the chamber. Even Creel's mandibles had stopped their confident clicking. Additionally, Chen continued, our remaining vessels have taken positions near the primary Viridian fleet bases in this sector. The hologram shifted again, showing the positions of the human ships. Now here are humanity's terms. First, release our people, all of them, unharmed, within the next 3 hours. Second, the Viridian Empire will withdraw all claims to the Helios sector pending formal Confederation arbitration. Third, you will provide full medical care to our injured personnel according to human medical standards, which we will supply. Creel's exoskeleton rattled with indignation. This is outrageous. The Confederation cannot allow such naked aggression. Ambassador Chen's expression remained pleasant. This isn't aggression, Ambassador. It's a negotiation. I believe you called it a position of strength. High Elder Morvath raised his hands for calm. Ambassador Chen, while the Confederation doesn't condone the Viridian actions, your response seems disproportionate. The human turned to the High Elder with respect. Elder Morvath, my government considers this response quite restrained. We could have simply taken our people back. Instead, we came to talk. Zellner studied the human closely. There was something fascinating in her demeanor, not the bravado of a bluff, but the absolute certainty of someone who knew precisely what cards they held. Creel wasn't finished. The Viridian Empire does not respond to threats. We have defense treaties with 5 Confederation members. If you attack us, you declare war on a third of the galactic community. Ambassador Chen sighed, looking genuinely disappointed. Ambassador, we don't want war. No one benefits from that. She tapped her device again. The hologram expanded dramatically, showing hundreds of small objects throughout Viridian-controlled space. These are automated observation platforms we've placed throughout your systems over the past decade. Completely passive until activated. Upon receiving a specific signal, they become what we call sentinels. The tension in the room was palpable now. Delegates were frantically consulting with aides. Ambassador, Zellner found themselves saying, what you're describing violates numerous Confederation prohibitions against prepositioned weapons. The human looked at Selnar with interest. They're not weapons, Archivist. They're navigational safety devices. When activated, they generate phase shift fields that disrupt faster than light travel. Ships passing through could end up, well, not where they intended. Completely defensive in nature. The implications were clear. The Viridian fleet would be effectively neutralized, unable to travel between their worlds without risking catastrophic navigation errors. Creel slammed a clawed appendage on the table. This is precisely why humans must be contained. Their technology, their aggression, their complete disregard for galactic law. Says the representative who imprisoned and injured our citizens, Ambassador Chen replied, her voice hardening for the first time. High Elder Morvath moved between them. Ambassador Chen, if the Viridians release your people and withdraw from the disputed sector, will you remove these devices immediately and verifiably? The human nodded. We have no interest in Viridian territory or continued conflict. Morvath turned to Creel. Ambassador, I strongly urge you to accept these terms. The Confederation cannot support your position in this matter. Creel's compound eyes darted around the room, finding no allies. This is coercion. This is consequence. Ambassador Chen corrected. You took our people. We've come to take them back. The choice of how this ends rests with you. The chamber fell silent as Creel's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of intense internal calculation among the Viridians. Selnar held their breath, acutely aware that they were witnessing a pivotal moment in Confederation history. Finally, Creel's posture slumped. The prisoners will be released within the specified time frame. The Viridian Empire will withdraw from the disputed sector pending further diplomatic discussions. Ambassador Chen nodded, her friendly demeanor returning instantly. Excellent. A representative will accompany your personnel to verify the condition of our people. Once they're safely captured scientists, they stated, not as a question. Patel smiled slightly. Yes. Every member of our research team is also a trained military officer. Dual specialization is common in our exploration divisions. I'm beginning to understand why the elders established their rule about humanity, Zellner said quietly. Your capabilities exceed anything in our records. We don't share everything, Archivist, Patel admitted. Not out of malice or distrust, but because we've learned that technological advancement without corresponding ethical development can be dangerous. Some civilizations aren't ready for certain technologies, like phase shift propulsion. Among others, we observe, we interact, we trade knowledge that we believe will benefit your societies. But some things we keep to ourselves until we're confident they won't be misused. As they continued monitoring the deactivation process, Selnar had a disturbing thought. Commander, if you have vessels with this capability stationed throughout Viridian space, and presumably elsewhere in Confederation territory, you're wondering why we needed a diplomatic solution at all. Patel finished the thought. Why we didn't simply rescue our people using these ships. Precisely. Because we meant what we said, Archivist. Humanity values diplomatic solutions. We could have extracted our team without negotiation. Yes. But that would have damaged our relationships with the Confederation and potentially escalated the situation unnecessarily. Patel's expression grew serious. These ships were our contingency plan, not our first choice. We revealed them only when the Viridians violated the diplomatic agreement and put the verification team at risk. Zelnar processed this information carefully. The humans had been willing to reveal significant technological capabilities they had previously kept hidden, rather than abandon diplomatic channels. It contradicted everything the Viridians had claimed about human aggression. I believe I have sufficient information for my verification report, Zellner said finally, though it will contain details the Confederation Council may find unsettling. We understand, Patel replied. Truth often is. As Selnar watched the final platforms deactivate on the display, they couldn't help but wonder what other capabilities humanity might possess and what it would mean for the future of the Confederation. The new understanding. 3 months after the Viridian incident, First Archivist Selner stood on the observation deck of the Terran Embassy on Confederation Central, watching the swirling nebula that surrounded the massive space station. The colors reminded them of Earth's oceans, which they had visited just weeks before. Beautiful, isn't it? Ambassador Helena Chen joined them at the viewport, holding 2 cups of steaming liquid. I thought you might enjoy some tea. It's a blend from my home province. Zelnar accepted the cup gratefully, their translucent fingers careful with the hot ceramic. Thank you, Ambassador. Your people's custom of sharing beverages during conversation is most pleasant. Chen smiled. Some human traditions transcend our differences. How are you finding your new role? After submitting their verification report, Selnar had been appointed Special Envoy to Earth, a position created specifically for them. The Confederation Council had been stunned by the revelations about human technological capabilities, and Selnar's first-hand experience made them the natural choice for this unprecedented diplomatic assignment. Challenging and enlightening in equal measure, Selnar replied. Your world contains more diversity than all 17 Confederation species combined. I've had to expand my classification systems considerably. Chen laughed. That sounds like a very Alteri response, always cataloging and categorizing. It's our nature, Zelnar acknowledged. Though unlearning that some things resist categorization, human art, for instance. I visited your Museum of Modern Expression in New Singapore, and I'm still processing the experience. Art often requires emotional interpretation rather than logical analysis, Chen suggested. Which brings me to the reason I ask you here today. The Viridian Empire has submitted a formal proposal to the Confederation. Zelnar's skin rippled with surprise, shifting to a deeper blue. Ambassador Creel was recalled to the Imperial homeworld after the incident. I hadn't expected them to re-engage so soon. Creel has been replaced, Chen explained. The new ambassador, Lixvarn, arrived yesterday with their proposal. As it directly involves Earth, I've been asked to provide our response. She activated a small device, projecting a document into the air between them. The Viridians are proposing a joint research initiative focused on phase shift technology. They're offering access to their quantum resonance expertise in exchange for basic principles of phase. Aboard our vessel, we'll begin removing our monitoring equipment and deactivating the Sentinels. As the council adjourned in disarray, Selnar found themselves following the human into the antechamber. They couldn't help themselves. They had questions. Ambassador Chen, Selnar called. A moment, please. She turned, studying Selnar with curious eyes. Of course, you're the archivist who recognized our phase shift technology. Zelnar, first archivist to the Confederation. I have a personal query, if you don't mind. Not at all. Were there really monitoring devices placed throughout the station? And these sentinels in Viridian space? The human's face remained impassive for a moment before breaking into a genuine smile. What do you think, Archivist Selnar? Selnar considered carefully. I think that if humans placed the devices as you claimed, there would actually be more than you revealed, to account for detection and removal attempts. Ambassador Chen laughed, a warm, disarming sound. You've studied us well. But the sentinels in Viridian space, Zelnar pressed. Surely that was. The ambassador's expression turned serious. Some things are better left uncertain, don't you think? A chill ran through Selnar's thermal regulation system. They understood the real lesson now, not just about human military capability, but about human psychology. The most powerful weapon they wielded wasn't technology, but ambiguity. Never knowing the full extent of what they could do created more fear than any direct demonstration of force. As Ambassador Chen prepared to leave, she paused. Archivist Selnar, you seem to understand humans better than most here. A word of advice. Yes, Ambassador. The old prohibition against challenging humans isn't quite right. We welcome challenges, scientific, cultural, athletic. We thrive on them. Her eyes darkened slightly. What we don't tolerate is threats to our people. Remember that distinction, and you'll do well in galactic diplomacy. As Selnar watched her walk away, they realized why the elders had established their rule about humanity. It wasn't fear of human technology or military might. It was the recognition that humans operated by an entirely different calculus of power. They didn't seek to dominate through constant displays of strength. They were content to remain in the background, exploring, trading, and living, until provoked. Then, like now, they revealed just enough of their capabilities to resolve the immediate situation, while always leaving the lingering question: what else could they do if truly challenged? The demonstration. The Viridian cruiser Inexorable cut through space like a gleaming blade, its segmented hull reflecting starlight in metallic patterns. First Archivist Selnar stood on the observation deck, watching as the vast ship approached the coordinates of the first human monitoring platform. "We appreciate your participation in this verification process," Archivist Captain Vexmore said, his exoskeleton clicking softly as he moved. Unlike Ambassador Creel, the captain seemed genuinely concerned about maintaining proper diplomatic protocols. "Your presence lends credibility to our findings. The Confederation values transparency," Selnar replied diplomatically, though they suspected the Viridians had different priorities than verification. The ship's sensors had located one of the human platforms exactly where Admiral Santos had indicated. It floated in the void, an unassuming object barely larger than a standard cargo container. "It appears dormant," reported the sensor officer. "No energy emissions detected. Bring it aboard using the isolation field," Captain Vexmore ordered. "Follow hazardous materials protocols." Selnar observed the process carefully. The Viridians were taking extreme precautions, as if expecting some kind of trap despite Admiral Santos' assurances. The platform was transported to a shielded examination chamber, where Viridian scientists waited in protective gear. "You may observe the examination directly," Vexmore told Selnar, "but we request you remain behind the safety barrier." "Of course," Selnar agreed, following the captain to the laboratory section. Through the transparent barrier, Selnar watched as the scientists approached the device. It was remarkably plain. A gray cylinder with several sensor arrays extending from its surface. No markings, no obvious access panels. The scientists began scanning it with various instruments. "Curious," the lead scientist reported. "The internal components matched the schematics provided by the humans precisely." Captain Vexmore's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Too precisely, perhaps." The scientist continued her examination. "Power source is indeed a standard fusion cell, currently in dormant state. The phase shift generator is fascinating. It operates on principles similar to our own experimental drives, but with significant refinements." "Is it dangerous?" The captain. "The violation." First Archivist Selnar of the Alteri Consortium shifted uncomfortably as the Galactic Confederation's emergency session descended into chaos. The Grand Chamber, normally a place of measured discourse and diplomatic restraint, now echoed with the harsh clicking and hissing of 17 different species voicing their alarm simultaneously. High Elder Morvath's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Selnar had learned indicated extreme distress among the ancient Quarian species. The Elder's resonant voice finally cut through the din. "Silence. We must maintain order." Morvath's gill flaps pulsated with emotion. "What Ambassador Creel of the Viridian Empire has just announced threatens the very stability of our galactic compact." Selnar's attention shifted to the Viridian delegation. Unlike most species present, the Viridians showed no signs of concern. Their segmented exoskeletons gleamed under the chamber lights, mandibles moving in what Selnar recognized as expressions of satisfaction rather than worry. As first archivist, Selnar had spent decades studying the history of interspecies relations. The Alteri were a scholarly race, their translucent skin and oversized craniums evolving for intellect rather than combat. This position had made them natural mediators within the Confederation, and Selnar had been specially trained to understand the complex dynamics between the 17 member species. But one species stood apart from the Confederation: humanity. And regarding humanity, the elders had established one paramount rule: never challenge them directly. Ambassador Creel rose from his gravity-adjusted seat, his metallic voice grating against Selner's sensitive auditory membranes. The Viridian Empire rejects the mythology that has been built around these humans. We have seized one of their vessels that trespassed into the Helios sector, territory we have claimed for generations. A collective murmur of alarm rippled through the chamber. Selnar felt their skin flush cyan with anxiety. Ambassador, Morvath said carefully, "Did you say you've seized a human vessel? With human crew aboard?" "Precisely." Creel's mandibles clicked with pride. 12 humans, captured along with their primitive research vessel. They were scanning the asteroid belt in Helios sector, our asteroid belt. Zelnar could no longer remain silent. Rising on their slender limbs, they addressed the chamber. "With respect, Ambassador Creel, the Helios sector remains disputed territory. No formal claim has been ratified by the Confederation." Creel's compound eyes fixed on Selnar. The archivist speaks out of turn. "The Viridian Empire needs no ratification for territories we have surveyed for 300 cycles. High Elder Morvath intervened. "The archivist speaks with the authority of historical record. But more pressing is your seizure of human citizens. You must release them immediately with appropriate reparations." Reparations. Creel's exoskeleton rattled with what passed for laughter among Viridians. "For enforcing our sovereign territory. The humans sent no fleet, no armada to retrieve their people. Merely a diplomatic communique requesting a peaceful resolution." Does this sound like the terrifying warriors of legend? The chamber erupted again, and Selnar exchanged worried glances with Morvath. The High Elder gestured for Selnar to approach the central podium. "Archivist Selnar," Morvath spoke quietly, "please share what our historical records tell us about human responses to such provocations." Zelnar's memory crystals, implants that enhance the already formidable Altari recall, activated with a slight tingle behind their eyes. Data from centuries of observations flooded their consciousness. "Respected representatives," Zelnar began, their voice calm despite their growing alarm. "Human history follows patterns unlike any other species we've encountered. They do not respond to provocations with immediate force, as the Viridians might expect. Instead, they begin with diplomacy, every time." Creel interrupted with a dismissive gesture. "Precisely my point. They are weak." "No, Ambassador," Zelnar continued firmly. "This is merely their first phase. Historical records from the Proxima incident, the Toph City confrontation, and the Rigel blockade all demonstrate the same pattern. Humans always begin with diplomacy, but if that fails..." Zelnar paused, allowing the implications to settle across the chamber. An aide rushed to Morvath, whispering urgently. The High Elder's color drained from vibrant purple to ashen gray. "The human diplomatic vessel has arrived," Morvath announced. "They're requesting immediate docking clearance." Creel straightened his ceremonial armor. "Excellent. The Viridian delegation will demonstrate how to negotiate from a position of strength." Zelnar moved closer to Morvath. "Elder, should we evacuate non-essential personnel from the station?" Manipulation. Zelnar studied the proposal carefully. Quite unexpected. After their aggressive stance, this represents a significant shift in approach. The question is whether it's genuine or a more subtle attempt to acquire our technology. Chen mused. "What's your assessment, Archivist? You've had more experience with Viridian diplomacy than most humans." Zelnar appreciated the question. Despite humanity's clear technological superiority, they consistently sought input from Confederation representatives, treating them as equals rather than subordinates. "The proposal itself is meticulously constructed," Zelnar observed. "It includes multiple safeguards and verification protocols, likely influenced by their recent experience. The technical exchange is carefully limited to theoretical principles rather than practical applications." "And the motivation?" Chen prompted. "Two possibilities," Zelnar replied. Either they've genuinely reassessed their stance toward humanity after witnessing your capabilities, or they're attempting a more sophisticated approach to technology acquisition. If I had to theorize based on Viridian cultural patterns, I would suggest both are true simultaneously. Chen raised an eyebrow. Both. The imperial leadership likely has mixed motives, Zellner elaborated. Some factions genuinely wish for collaboration, while others see this as a long-term strategy to eventually achieve technological parity. The proposal was carefully worded to satisfy both camps. Chen nodded thoughtfully. That aligns with our intelligence assessment. The question remains, how should Earth respond? Before Zellner could answer, a chime announced another visitor. The door slid open to reveal Admiral Marcus Santos, accompanied by a Viridian in formal attire, presumably the new ambassador, Lixsparn. Ambassador Chen, Archivist Zellner, Santos greeted them. Ambassador Lixsparn requested a meeting, and I thought it appropriate to include you both. The Viridian ambassador was smaller than Creel had been, their exoskeleton a more subdued copper tone rather than polished silver. They performed the traditional Confederation greeting with surprising grace for their species. "Thank you for receiving me," Lixsparn said, their translator rendering their clicking speech into smooth standard. "I understand you're discussing our research proposal." "We are," Chen confirmed. "Your timing is fortuitous. Perhaps you could share the reasoning behind this initiative directly." Lixsparn's compound eyes shifted between the humans and Zellner, mandibles moving in what the archivist recognized as a gesture of deliberate openness. A Viridian diplomatic signal rarely shown to non-Viridians. "I will be direct," the ambassador began. "The incident 3 months ago revealed a significant technological gap between our civilizations. Some in the imperial hierarchy view this as a threat. Others, including Emperor Vextalon, see it as an opportunity." Zellner noted the use of the Emperor's name, another unusual gesture of openness in Viridian diplomacy. "The Emperor believes that Viridian expansion through military means has reached its natural limit," Lixsparn continued. "Further growth must come through technological advancement and diplomatic engagement. Your handling of the platform situation demonstrated both technological superiority and remarkable restraint. You could have destroyed our vessels," the ambassador stated bluntly. "Instead, you disabled weapons systems with surgical precision and offered assistance even to those who attacked you. This challenges certain assumptions about human nature that had become entrenched in imperial thinking." Admiral Santos exchanged a glance with Chen. "Yet your proposal focuses specifically on phase shift technology, the very capability that defeated your forces." "Yes," Lixsparn acknowledged. "For 2 reasons. First, it represents the clearest technological gap between our civilizations. Second, its potential applications extend far beyond military use. More efficient trade routes, improved communication systems, new exploration possibilities." The ambassador's posture shifted subtly. "I am authorized to add that the Empire is prepared to formally recognize the Hylia sector as neutral territory under Confederation administration, with equal access rights for all species. This was the original point of contention that led to the regrettable seizure of your research vessel." This concession surprised Zellner. The Viridians had claimed the resource-rich Hylia sector for generations. Surrendering these claims represented a significant shift in imperial policy. "A generous offer," Chen replied carefully. "Though I note it comes after the demonstration of our technological capabilities, not before." "True," Lixsparn admitted without hesitation. "The incident provided clarity to imperial leadership regarding the relative benefits of cooperation versus confrontation with humanity. I would be disingenuous to suggest otherwise." Zellner admired the ambassador's honesty. It was refreshingly direct compared to Creel's posturing. "Ambassador Lixsparn," Admiral Santos said, "there's a question I must ask directly. Does the Viridian Empire still aspire to military dominance within the Confederation?" The Viridian's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of internal calculation. "The Empire will always seek to protect its interests and citizens, But the definition of protection is evolving within our leadership. Traditional conquest has proven less effective than technological and economic advancement for ensuring long-term security. An interesting evolution, Chen observed. Necessitated by reality, Lixfarn replied, "We have ruled through strength for millennia. But your species has shown us a different kind of strength, one that doesn't require constant demonstration to be effective." The ambassador turned to Xelnar. The archivist's verification report was particularly illuminating in this regard. The description of human vessels appearing instantaneously throughout our territory, yet choosing diplomatic resolution despite having overwhelming tactical advantage. This created significant impact among our strategic planners. Xelnar's skin flushed with modest lavender. "I merely reported my observations. Sometimes observation is the most powerful act," Lixfarn noted. "Your report has been studied extensively on my homeworld, along with all available historical data about human conflict resolution patterns." The ambassador turned back to the humans. "Our conclusion is that humanity represents a new paradigm in interspecies relations, one that values restraint as much as capability. This is not a pattern the Viridian Empire has encountered before, but we wish to understand it better." Admiral Santos studied the Viridian carefully, and this research proposal is part of that understanding process. "Yes," Lixfarn confirmed. "We seek to learn not just human technology, but human methods. Why you develop the technologies you do, how you determine when to use them, the principles that guide your advancement." Chen looked thoughtful. "That's a more comprehensive exchange than your written proposal suggests." "The written proposal represents what I could formally secure approval for," Lixfarn explained. "This conversation represents what I hope to achieve over time." After the meeting concluded and Lixfarn departed, Chen, Santos, and Xelnar remained to discuss the unexpected development. "Your assessment, Archivist?" Chen asked. "I believe Ambassador Lixfarn is sincere," Xelnar replied. "Their use of certain Viridian diplomatic signals, particularly invoking the Emperor's name and displaying open mandible configurations, indicates authorized candor. This represents a genuine policy shift, though likely one still debated within their hierarchy." Santos nodded. "We've detected significant changes in Viridian fleet deployments over the past months. They've shifted from aggressive forward positioning to a more defensive stance focused on their core systems. They're redirecting resources," Chen suggested, "perhaps from military expansion to technological development. A natural response to discovering a species with superior capabilities," Xelnar noted. "But what interests me more is the ambassador's focus on understanding human methods and principles, not just technology. That suggests a deeper reassessment." Chen sipped her tea thoughtfully. "So we have a choice: engage with this apparent shift in Viridian thinking, or maintain our technological advantage by declining collaboration. If I may," Xelnar ventured, "there is another option. The limited exchange focused on non-military applications of phase shift technology might satisfy the progressive elements in Viridian leadership while allowing humanity to maintain its strategic advantages." Santos smiled. "Precisely what our advisory committee recommended: sharing theoretical principles of phase shift communications and small-scale transportation, while withholding military applications." "This seems wise," Xelnar agreed. "Though I would add one observation from my time studying human history and culture." "Please," Chen encouraged. "Humanity's strength has never been solely technological," Xelnar said. "Your true advantage lies in adaptability, creativity, and your unique social structures that balance individualism with collective action. These cannot be easily taught or transferred through technical exchanges." "An astute observation," Santos acknowledged. "Our technology can be shared or even reverse engineered eventually. Our culture and thought patterns are less easily replicated." "Which brings me to a proposal of my own," Chen said, activating her datapad. "The diplomatic corps has been discussing a more comprehensive cultural exchange program with the Confederation. Not just with the Viridians, but with all member species," She displayed a complex proposal outline: scientific symposiums, artistic collaborations, educational exchanges, even sporting competitions, a multifaceted approach to integration that goes beyond traditional diplomacy. Zellner studied the proposal with interest. This would represent an unprecedented level of cultural exchange between humanity and the Confederation. We've remained somewhat isolated since first contact, Chen acknowledged, partly from caution, partly from our own uncertainty about our place in the galactic community. But perhaps it's time for a change in approach. The incident with the Viridians has made one thing clear, Santos added. Misunderstanding breeds conflict. The elders had the right idea with their rule about not challenging humans, but for the wrong reasons. The rule should exist not because we're dangerous, but because confrontation prevents the mutual understanding that benefits everyone. Zellner's skin rippled with colors of agreement. A profound insight, Admiral. So we accept a modified version of the Viridian research proposal, Chen concluded, but embed it within this larger cultural exchange initiative. Their scientists don't just learn about phase shift technology. They learn about the human scientific process, our ethical frameworks, our collaborative methods. And in return, Selnar inquired, we learn from them as well. Chen replied simply, every species in the Confederation has developed unique approaches to problem-solving, art, social organization. Diversity of thought is the greatest resource in the universe. 6 months later, Zellner stood on the grounds of the newly established Interspecies Collaborative Institute on Earth. The sprawling campus housed research facilities, cultural centers, and residential areas for representatives from all 17 Confederation species. At its center stood the Phase Shift Navigation Department, where human scientists worked alongside Viridian engineers on applications for safer interstellar travel. Impressive, isn't it? Admiral Santos said, joining Selnar as they watched students and researchers of various species moving between buildings. From confrontation to collaboration in less than a year. Humanity continues to surprise, Zellner admitted. Most species would have used their technological superiority to dominate or at least secure favorable trade terms. Instead, you created this. Santos smiled. We've learned from our own history that domination is ultimately self-defeating. Collaboration yields more sustainable results. They walked through the